All right, Chris Long, welcome to Vlad TV.
How you doing?
How
Good to be here.
How are you feeling?
Doing all right. How you doing?
Good. I'm honestly really happy you're here.
Well, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I feel like whenever, I think where did I run into you last time?
Where did I see you? Maybe at the Chief Keef thing recently?
I think that was it.
I think that was
Yeah. The one, he didn't end up showing up.
No. That was typical. He never shows up. I feel like he never shows up, or he's always super late.
Right. No, I remember one time he had the Zaytoven one, and he literally showed up at the very end, and he was like, "Where's everyone?" And I was like, "Bruh, you showed up. You were listening at the end. That's hilarious." But how are you? Like,
I'm good. Yeah, just been chilling.
What's been going on?
Same old stuff. Just been just kind of grinding away, trying to, do my thing and keep working and documenting and
right.
Working a lot with Ski Mask lately.
Okay,
I was
cool.
working a lot with Trippie in the past year.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, if you don't mind, I would love to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Just being from New Hampshire, right?
Massachusetts. Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up just outside of Boston. Grew up riding like BMX bikes. So me and my friends would go out, film each other riding, and like that's kind of where the photography and the filming started. And just making bike videos. And then, once YouTube and all, start putting them on the internet and kind of gaining a little notoriety that way in the BMX industry.
Right.
I moved to California in 2011. I moved to California and it was still BMX. I moved to work for a bike company, be the team manager and filmer for a bike company. I did that for a couple of years, more on the BMX stuff, and then kind of got burnt out on it after actually working in the BMX industry. It kind of like, in a way, almost took the fun out of it, of like what riding bikes was for me. So I kind of like got burnt out on that. And then,
did you ever get hurt?
Yeah. I was never like the great rider. I could do some stuff, you know what I mean? But yeah, like I've tore my ACL, separated my shoulders, broken some bones, just typical boy stuff growing up, I guess, riding dirt bikes and all that shit. But yeah, just did the BMX thing out here for a few years, and then kind of went like low key for a little while. I was like working like dispensaries and just kind of, because there was a kind of like no work going on. When I first, was out here, I lived with Adam 22. We did BMX stuff together.
That's wild. Shout out to Adam, because I know he's a friend of Vlad's too.
Yeah, I know they're friends.
Yeah.
We did that. We kind of like the podcast that he has now, like kind of started. It was like more of a BMX thing in the beginning. We just like, he wanted to do a podcast. I just basically came home with like the right equipment to start recording some audio and like filming it. We did it in like our apartment a couple times, and it was like just BMX people. And then we moved to my other friend Alfredo's garage, and we kind of like set up a little makeshift studio there. And then that's when, and it was all like BMX at first, and then that's when they kind of they opened the On Some Shit store, which was a BMX store, like bike shop. And that was in downtown LA. So shortly after Adam moved to downtown LA, I was kind of getting out on the BMX thing, and like they were opening a store. So it was like a BMX shop. Like there wasn't like really work for me to do there at the time. The podcast wasn't, it was just BMX. It wasn't anything like generating revenue or anything like that. So that's when I kind of started working in the, just doing my own thing, just doing dispensaries and riding motorcycles, and obviously still friends and helped out and, whatever for technical stuff. But then when they moved the store from downtown LA to Melrose.
Right. I remember that.
And No Jumper kind of in that time period went from BMX and transitioned to more popular culture. And then like rappers and stuff like that. And then that's kind of when I got back involved. I called my friend Alfredo, who was part owner of the store. I was like, what's going on? Like I could use some work. And then he was just like, oh, come help us move. You know what I mean? So then I started helping them move the store into Melrose. And then it was like help set the store up. And then I was like working in the store a little bit. And then slowly started helping with the podcast a little bit more than I did before, because they were kind of like on cruise control for a little while, and then I'm a little bit more knowledgeable, I guess, like technical wise, like lighting and cameras and stuff like that, and then started helping that way, and then started kind of like being around a lot more, and then just kind of decided that like, hey, why? Then Adam did the iPhone vlogs, and I was like, why don't I just grab my camera and come out and just film like we used to, like when we were doing BMX stuff, like same idea in my head, like we'd always just be together and I'd always be filming before it was BMX, but now we're just around rappers. And then that's kind of where the vlogs kind of started. And then did that with No Jumper for a little while, and then moved out of there, and then kind of just doing my own thing, but just went to work basically full time for Juice WRLD. And then
wow, it's crazy because I think you started by you were shooting all the exposed interviews, right?
I mean, everything. I did
Okay.
all the exposed interviews. I was pretty much, helping do all the podcasts and editing. And then when he stopped doing the self-film like iPhone vlogs and started doing like the day in the life vlogs and like that, those were all me and stuff like that too. So
Right.
yeah, and I just kind of like, I just treated it as like the same way I would treat BMX, like try to capture it in the same way. And I went to school for filmmaking. Like I went to college for it, and I like majored in documentary filmmaking. So that's always kind of like where my passion has been, is to more documentary style. So even though like a lot of this stuff is like a vlog or whatever, and it's just going to go on YouTube, I try to like approach it as like, cool, I might only be with you for a day and we're gonna make a video of this day, but like this is gonna be like a 1 day documentary. Like I kind of try to approach it like that, like keep it real. I do all of the vlogs now on my own YouTube channel, and it's the same. You know what I mean? Like if there's nothing to do, like I'm just not gonna put a video up. Like
Right.
it has to be like somewhat. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just put stuff out to put stuff out. And so I realized that like when I started doing my own YouTube channel, like, well, I'm still hanging around a lot of these rappers, like just on the daily basis, like just pulling up and hanging out. And, there may not be anything specific going on, but, I'm just with a lot of people that like, it took me a little while to realize like, oh, like kids would like kill to be in this position to just be like, pull up to Juice WRLD's house and just be walking, pull up to Trippie Red's house, like,
Yeah.
Don't even call. You just pull up and you just walk in the door and you just like walk back in the kitchen and be like, hey, what's up, guys? You know what I mean? Like, just like your regular friends. And I'm like, I really should be kind of like doing something more with it. And that's why I kind of started doing the vlogs on my own YouTube channel, just kind of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. You guys can come along and see. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like to force anything. No,
Right.
Like a lot of YouTubers like to just make sure they have like content, and they'll do goofy stuff to like just have stuff. And it's like, if I'm not doing anything, if I'm gonna sit home for 2 weeks and I don't feel like going out, I'm like, you're not gonna get a video, because I'm not gonna force, you know what I mean? I can't force things to happen,
Right.
So
Do you think that's also why these artists connect with you? Because you don't necessarily come in with like I'm always shooting. It's more so like you come to be a homie.
I mean, yeah, I question it all the time. Like, why do a lot of these rappers even fuck with me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like now, you know what I mean? Like, I still feel like I'm 22 years old. Like, I'm an older fucking white guy hanging out with like a lot of young rappers and stuff like that. But I mean, I think I'm kind of quiet and like introvert a little bit, like in the beginning. But I think a lot of people kind of like after a minute catch the vibe. Like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about famous people, and I learned that in the BMX world. When I was younger, to have pictures of BMX riders on my wall and shit like that. But it wasn't long before like I was traveling to those BMX riders' houses and like sleeping on their couch and filming them for like a whatever BMX video, and I'm just realizing, I'm like, oh, they're just some piece of shit like me. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, they might be like this pro BMX rider, but like they're just some kid that actually was really good and that made it. And like it broke down that wall of like thinking that people like just because they're in a position are like more important than like, like people look up to celebrities, and I'm just like, I don't give a fuck that you're a celebrity. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
I got over that kind of thing in the BMX. So like when I started hanging out with rappers, it was just like, yeah, I don't really care. I'm just like I just want to chill out and smoke weed with you too. You know what I mean? Like you just want to like half these rappers just want to hang out and smoke blunts and whatever. And it's like, yeah, I just want to do the same thing. Like they want to make music and like I just want to take pictures, you know? So it's like I'm not trying to like I'm like I just want to capture like what's going on and what like I just like capturing a lot of candid stuff. Like if we're all chilling, like there's so many moments in my pictures like you'll just see in a room, just like if we were here right now and I was with a rapper getting interviewed, I would be in the background filming this moment, and I would be in the background taking pictures of this. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of like what I like to do, like just capture all the moments happening in time.
You know, when people saw Juice, they saw you with him. Yeah. Just can you bring us back? I know you guys met at No Jumper. Yeah. Can you bring us back to that interview? What was the energy? What was you and Juice's first interactions?
Our first interactions was he was just like a nice kid, you know what I mean? Like especially in that No Jumper, I met a lot of people, a lot of upcoming rappers. Some made it, some didn't. I think we already had heard Juice's song on like a live stream. I think I already knew like this kid's gonna be huge, because the song was really good. And when the first time I met him, I don't think he wasn't signed yet. It was like his first time out in California. He was just like a super energetic, kid, you know what I mean? Like he was really nice, really humble, personable. We talked, we started talking about like, well, that's the thing with Juice. He really like connects with people, you know what I mean? And he finds a way to find what your connection is and he builds off that. And like, it was like instantly like, oh, you like, because I think he saw my motorcycle out back, and then we were like talking about motorcycles, then dirt bikes, and like all right there and then like that was our connection, like, and we just built off of that. And then like he's like, oh, you ride, and he was like, then he rode a little bit, but he wasn't like very good at riding. You know, he rode bikes a little bit growing up, but not too much. But then we talk about dirt bikes and stuff like that, and then I met him a couple more times throughout that year. I think I met him at like I think it was like the end of 2017 or very beginning of 2018-ish. And then I met up with him a few more times that year, or like that summer, to do some like vlogs or whatever and just film some stuff with him. And it was always the same thing. It was like he treated you like, he treated me like right away. You know what I mean? Like I was like a friend, not like no big deal. And we had that connection, and then we just started building off that. And then I think it was like by like September, October, November of 2018, I went over there one day to just film some stuff with him, recording or whatever, just like a vlog or whatever. And he had a dirt bike there, and we were like all day like filming and riding the dirt bike and just having fun. You know what I mean? Like he just wanted to have fun with his friends always. And then he was just like, come over tomorrow. And then I went over the next day, and then he was just like, come over tomorrow. And then I went over the next day, and then I basically never left. It was just, that was it. So. Wow.
How did you pivot into like this assistant and photographer position?
Well, like I said, I once I started hanging out with them, kind of consistently, we were filming, and it was like going to be a vlog. And then like after about a week of filming, I was like, we should just film and not stop and like just do a documentary. And he's like, yeah, it'd be so cool. You know what I mean? Like we intended to like film a documentary. I'm like, we can just film over the next however long, like we film as much as we can, like the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and we can see the progression of your career and everything, your life. And like, we'll just film and just do our thing, and we'll see where it takes us, And he was super with it. You know what I mean? And I feel like he was super with it too, because I think he liked having me around. I liked being around. It was kind of also like, it's in the beginning because I wasn't getting paid. Like I was just going there and hanging out. You know what I mean? So for a long time, it was just basically just, I would go there because he's my friend and we're filming. And I'm like, one day we're going to do something really cool with all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, we have some shit, because he'd be freestyling all the time. And, right. And I think for both of us, it was kind of like an excuse for us to be able to hang out all the time. You know what I mean? So, and then, I started traveling with them and things like that. And then the assistant thing kind of like, it just became like, after like I fully was no longer with No Jumper and like with Juice. And then like at one point I started living with Juice, but I was just doing, more than just filming. You know what I mean? Like, I would go to the store for him, or whatever I had to do. If I had to go around the grocery store or whatever, pick some stuff up. When we traveled, like I would have a lot of times I would sleep he would have a suite, you know what I mean? So like they would have like separate rooms, but I would sleep in his room. Like I would sleep on the couch in like the living room a lot of times. But like I would have a key to his room usually. I would go in there in the morning, start to wake him and Allie up. You know what I mean? Like, guys, get up. We got a flight like this time.
Yeah.
I would start packing his bags for him and stuff. I'd order breakfast, and then I get the breakfast there, and I really get in there. I'm like, all right, now you really got to get up. Bags are packed. You know what I mean? Because you just had to be on top of that stuff. And then that's kind of like where that was. I was just kind of like just doing odds and ends. If he wanted, when we're at the house and stuff like that, like I'd always cook him pizzas. Like he always like those Red Baron pizzas, and he always liked them burnt. Like he always like a little charred in the top always.
I love that.
Yeah. So just just little shit like that, and just.
I hate to get into this because I know it's heavy. I think I saw he actually has been doing drugs since 12 years old. When did you first realize? I mean, obviously he had you do drugs with him, but when did you first like encounter Juice's substance abuse?
Well, I mean, honestly, the first day I met him,
the
very first second I met him, he came to do the interview at No Jumper. This is before he signed. He took a perk and put it on the table, sat down. He did his interview, and then he got up when the interview was done, did it, and left. And like, it was funny because Adam didn't know what it was because he was like, "What was that blue pill? Was that a Viagra?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like kind of a funny moment. I'm like, no, that's kind of like more a serious drug, but Juice, that's one thing, like with the documentary and stuff. Juice definitely wasn't defined. It was really focused on the drug stuff, but he wasn't, who he wasn't the drug use. You know what I mean? But he definitely got caught up, and he was doing drugs, since I first met him. And the thing was, it wasn't bad, but obviously you can see in the documentary, it progressively got worse. Totally. And towards the end, like, I mean, there became a moment when you're, in this industry, as you know, a lot of people do drugs. A lot of people do that drug. A lot of people drink lean. And it's out there. And it's like some of the biggest rappers are doing the same thing. And, some people are better at doing drugs, you know what I mean? Can control it. And some people have, like he definitely had a substance abuse problem. And he definitely had like depression and stuff like that. And he would use drugs and not cope with things the right way, and use drugs to cope with things, which, I understand. Like we would have talks a lot. Like I talked to him about trying to go to therapy and stuff like that. He would talk about how he went to therapy when he was a kid. But he was like open. He was really open to any idea you had, like when we had serious conversations with things like that. And then, we all did drugs together, but then it progressively got worse. But then it got to a point where like, wow, he's pretty badly addicted. And the only way we knew, like the only way, like he couldn't just stop. If he just stopped, his withdrawals would have killed him. You know what I mean? Like, so like we knew we had to like just convince him to go to rehab eventually, which it took a while. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people watch the documentary and are like, oh, wow, all you guys, you saw the parts when we did drugs together or watched him do drugs. And I filmed a lot of it. I filmed a lot of the parts doing drugs because we both didn't want to lie about, you know what I mean? Like what was happening. But that was what was really happening. You know what I mean? Like but that's not who he was as a person. Like, even like, I understand time restraints and stuff like that, and trying to make a documentary is really hard, but there's a lot more footage out there, of him being like talking, getting deep with the camera, talking about different things, and just being himself, like who he was as a person. And like who he was as a person was a really good, genuine kid. You know what I mean? He really cared about his friends. He really cared about his family, and he didn't give a shit about money. No, he really didn't. He just, you know what I mean? Like we could, on his last birthday, he just wanted to go we went to the desert, and then we took the dirt bikes and we took the guns. We brought a cooler with like peanut butter and bologna sandwiches, and like we went out to this spot in the desert that we go to. We set up the targets and we're shooting guns. We're riding the dirt bikes. We got like a little bonfire going. Like
that's awesome.
That's what he wanted to do. He just wanted to be around his friends and just do stuff like that, you know?
Totally.
And like you realize like what a good person he is, and like how much like the fame or money he didn't care about, because like, especially early on when we first started like consistently hanging out, like oh, all of a sudden he's on like this little tour in Europe and I'm home, and like he knows that there's something in life bothering me, and he's just FaceTime me like, yo, I just want to check up on you. You good?
Aw.
Like, and we talk on the phone for like 2 hours. Like we talk on FaceTime just about life and shit. And like,
That's adorable.
here's this kid that is blowing up as a superstar right now, like competing with like Drake and stuff like that and on the charts. And he's just calling me just to check up and just talk about riding dirt bikes or going to play paintball or, you know, just be a friend. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about how you used to test his drugs?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll be completely honest. That was always my biggest fear, that he would get bad drugs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because obviously we saw what happened, like Little Peep and stuff
Right,
like that.
for
Like that
sure.
was, and
Rest in peace.
it's a big thing.
Yeah.
But
But that's big for you to risk your own life for Juice, you know?
Yeah. So basically, well, I mean, I bought fentanyl test strips.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So, whenever he would get drugs or whatever, like he would basically get a decent batch at a time or whatever. I'd go in and just take a bunch of random pills, and then you like crush up the pill, mix it with water, and put the test strip in it, and it tells you if it's positive or negative for fentanyl or whatever. And like basically just started doing that, like on my own, just like started doing that with every batch he got and stuff like that, just because that was always my biggest fear.
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So
Did it ever test positive?
Yep, I got a positive test before,
Wow.
and I've had to throw stuff away before.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, because there were pills before. Like, I mean, honestly, our last text message was before we left for the plane that night. Was, hey, can you? He found a bag of pills in the pocket of some clothes or something like that, and it was like, hey, can you test these pills for me?
Wow.
Like that was like our last
Right.
text message together.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Before we get to that evening, I just want to ask, because I actually interviewed D Savage for Vlad TV as well.
Yep.
In the documentary, you see D Savage pulling up with the lean.
Uh-huh.
Talk about just, perks aside, I know you were always looking out for him on the lean and telling people not to pour as much as he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I thought that was very noble of you to step up and just look out for him, knowing that, the amount he wanted was insane.
Yeah. I mean, that was Juice. Juice wanted to be the best at everything he did. He wanted to be the best rapper. He wanted to be the best playing video games. He wanted to be the best playing basketball on the driveway. He wanted to be the best at doing wheelies on dirt bikes. You know what I mean? Like, he wanted to be the best fucking lean sipper. You know what I mean? Like, that was just his nature of like doing stuff. And then I sip lean too. Like, I never did pills, like those pills before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, before I met Juice. And then, but I did sip lean, and we would sip lean together and stuff like that. But after a while, his girlfriend really wanted him to stop. So, and I'm like, all right, that's fair. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. And it's like, it's good. If she was like bringing the hammer down on that, like, I don't want him doing lean at all. And like, she didn't want him like mixing the drugs. That was the problem. And, so the consumption of lean went down a lot. But he's also, people don't realize, like, he was a young kid. We most of us were all older and stuff like that. But like, he is first it took me a little while to find my place in the group of like when I can, you know what I mean? Cause a lot of them were there already and I kind of came in a little bit later. And, but then when I kind of found got my footing and was like, no, you like started like standing up, like, no, you're doing that. And like, that's stupid. And like, you know what I mean? Things that you would, cause you gotta, there's a line, you know what I mean? Like, you can't be too harsh. Cause then like, what happens if he just gets too pissed and then kicks me out and then I'm not around him anymore. And then I can't do anything to help him. You know what I mean? I can't be there to like still talk to him every day, like try to like convince him, or cause an addict is an addict. They're not going to stop unless they want to stop. Right. So it's like trying to convince them it's a good idea to stop, But Ali came down hard on lean, so he stopped drinking lean. But like I said, he has all the money in the world. He can do what he wants. He's still able to get lean. So if he would get lean, I would be the one hiding it in my room. If he was like, try to find me lean, it was easier for me like, oh, no one has it right now. You know what I mean? Or like, once in a while we would get it, but the consumption went way down.
Right.
But then also since I was the one hiding it, he'd be like, go pour this up for me. And he'd be like, go pour me a 4. And I'd be like, all right, yeah, cool. And I'd not be pouring them 4s because it's like, you don't need to be taking that much. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, it was just overconsumption. And I was always like, bro, like, we got to be careful. You can't get too fucked up. If Allie catches me sneaking lean, like, I'm going to get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be the one that gets in trouble. Like, so I'm like, I'm scared. I'm not going to get in trouble. So we can't do too much.
What was his reaction to that?
He just laughed.
Oh, okay.
He thought it was funny.
Was there an incident that led Allie to ban lean from the house?
I don't know if it was any one specific incident. I think it was just that, you know, it was just too much. You know what I mean? Like, especially with the pills, and it's just too much.
I know in the last tour you guys had an intervention with him because of the amount of drugs was just out of control. Can you bring us back to that intervention moment and convincing him to go to rehab?
Yeah. It was like the last tour we did Australia, then we went to Japan for his birthday, and then New Zealand, and then back to Australia. When we went to Australia, he definitely partied too hard that night, like way too hard. And then the next morning when I was in the hotel room cleaning up, like packing his bags and stuff like that, and then Max Lord, his engineer, came in and he's cleaning up the studio. He would always set the studio up in the hotel room. Max is kind of the one that started it and was like, because the problem is that like I think originally he ran out of pills on that trip.
Okay.
But Max and I would always have like backups because we knew if he went through real withdrawals, like that could kill him. You know what I mean? Like, and like even like brought like, I don't even have like Suboxone. You know what I mean? Like that's something that people use to get off that. And I was trying to like, you know, you can take this and you can wean yourself off them, and you know what I mean? So always trying to convince them like to just slow down, because by that tour was kind of when we saw that he was really ramped up his intake. And then like we're really like, that tour was a big realization of how many pills he was actually doing. Because people like don't realize like, yeah, he would do pills, but like it wasn't that many at first when we were first starting to hang out. But then like towards the end, it was a lot.
It was like 7 on his tongue at one point.
There was that clip in there that I didn't film that clip, but he did that to me one time. I was out in the garage fucking with the dirt bike. He walked out and like we got an argument. Like I pushed him. I was like, don't you fucking ever do that in front of me again. Like, why are you taking that? Like that was like another like towards that the last few months there where I'm like, this is starting to get out of control. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of like when like also we're like, he was the type of dude like, here, you know what I mean? Like I never bought one, be like, yeah, you do one with me tonight or whatever. Like, and I'd be like breaking them in half because those are strong pills, and he's doing multiples like at once. And then I'm like, that's when it was like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, good, you know, I can't be doing this like with you anymore. That's like, it's too bad. And then we just didn't know how many he was doing, because he wouldn't sit there normally and just do a lot in front of you, but like you might see him do 1 or 2. And then like he would go in a different room, and then he'd go in a different room. You know what I mean? He'd be hiding them in his pocket and like turn around and take it when, you know. So like his addiction was bad, and it ramped up a lot towards the end. And that's when kind of like Max and I especially went to like, bro, it's gone too far. You know what I mean? So like in Japan, we kind of like, Max brought it up and it was like, last night was out of control. You know what I mean? The amount is too much. You know, it was like an emotional moment for all of us. It was me, Allie, Juice, and Max in the room.
Was Baby there?
No. It was just us. It was just us 4. And then we flew to New Zealand. And then in New Zealand, we had like 2 vans for us. Everybody got in one van. Then me, Max, and one of his managers got in another van. And Max, I had my headphones on, and Max turns around. I was like, hey, Chris. And he's like, I took my headphones off. And he's like, and he started saying to his manager, and he's like, yo, Juice is doing too much. It's gone too far. Like, he has to go to rehab. He did, you know, X amount last night or whatever. And then that's when his manager was like, all right, reached out to the other managers, reached out to his mom, reached out to a doctor. It was Pete, yeah. Okay. And then we're in New Zealand, that's when we got to New Zealand, and then we got to the hotel. I think his cousin Sean and Pete pulled him aside, kind of did the same thing, pulled him in a room and talked to him. And that's when it was decided that like, you're gonna go to rehab. Like, we're gonna go back from tour, do your birthday. Pete's gonna set the rehab up. And I think Pete was working. I think Pete had it set up for like December 20th or something, or 21st. Like, but I also feel like when we got back, it was the week of his birthday. He went a little hard because it was his birthday week. Maybe he started going a little harder because he knew he had rehab coming up.
Right.
So that also could have like ramped up a little bit at the end there too. So.
Totally. I think Baby was telling Vlad that Juice said he'd go to rehab, but he wasn't gonna stop.
Yeah, I mean, in the airport in Japan. So me and Juice, like, he's like, come to the bathroom with me, like, so he wasn't walking alone. So we went to the bathroom together in Japan, and I was like, I knew he was pissed about what happened earlier that morning in the hotel room. Because I heard him like say something to a security guard, like, everyone's mad at me, da 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 da, and he was upset. You know what I mean? So I was like, yo, I'm like, no one's mad at you. Like, we love you. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to see anything happen. You know, like, and I'm like, I know it's hard, and you think, you know, you get mad or whatever, and it was an emotional moment. You know, I told him too, I'm like, bro, like, there is one point I'm like, I will do as many pills as you do every day for a fucking month. If you go to rehab, I'll go to rehab with you. Like, I'm like, if that's what it takes, you know what I mean? Like, and then like, we were walking in the bathroom and we had that little talk, and I'm like, we love you. We just, you know what I mean? He's like, I don't want to stop. I go, you don't want to stop. You're out of control. You know what I mean? So even if you want to do this, I'm like, you're at a level where you can't just
get by anymore.
just do it casually. You know what I mean? Like, you're not a casual drug user right now. Like, you're too addicted to this. You know, it's not like you go out like every once in a while and like get a little fucked up. It's like you're every single day have to take a lot to get and maintain. So I understand. I go, but even if you stop, you take a break and like you bring your tolerance down, and like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, well, I'll stop for a couple, we'll do this thing and I'll stop for a couple of days. I'm like, bro, you know, like, you can't stop for a couple of days. I'm like, it's gonna be like maybe a couple months, you know what I mean? Like, before you can even think about trying to like do anything like that. And I go, honestly, once you stop, you probably shouldn't do it again. You know what I mean? Because you obviously have an addictive personality.
Right.
And like, that was kind of like the talk we were having like in that bathroom. And you know, and he actually looked at me. He's like, yo, that's why you're my best friend, bro. Like, it was.
Damn. Chris, you're so strong for this. Like, I don't know how you do it. I hate to get into this, but I definitely want to touch on the last day. If you could just, I know, you know, there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah.
I would love for you to clear that up. I know you were dealing with the charge last time we talked. The case.
Yeah.
I would love to hear positive updates. I'm hoping.
My case, it got dropped.
Okay,
got a good
cool.
lawyer. So.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I would love to, if you could break down what exactly happened.
It was just, you know, the documentary, like Leroy kind of explains it.
Right, he was on the plane. Right?
He was with us. We were going back to Chicago for his birthday. His mom was like renting out like a go-kart track for him and stuff. Like, but we were late for the plane. We were like really late for the plane, like 6 hours. Like, Pete was like, yo, they're gonna cancel it on us. Pete wasn't there. He was calling like, they're gonna cancel it on us. Like, get it, you know, everybody there and stuff. Juice got really fucked up that day. I wasn't around that day. I had to run to LAX, pick up a bag that we lost in that last tour from Australia, and just do a couple of like little errands. And then I came back and then got ready. And then, like, as you see in the documentary, like, I was just vlogging. Like, I was going to vlog our trip and just put that on my YouTube channel. And then he was home basically, you know, with a couple of other guys, but he got really, really fucked up. There was, you know, I think there was kind of some other stuff going on, argument wise within the group, within other people, you know what I mean? And I think that was starting to really stress Juice out. And Juice was very non-confrontational, you know what I mean? So when he saw other people kind of like arguing and getting mad and shit like that, like, he didn't cope well with that kind of thing.
What was it about?
I don't know. But I don't think he just, I think it kind of hit him heavy, you know what I mean? And like, I think with that, the rehab coming up, week of his birthday, and it was just a lot. That day, I wasn't there, but a doctor came to the house because he felt like his heart was racing and stuff earlier that day. But when I came home that night, he was really fucked up. Like he definitely was drinking lean. You know what I mean? I don't know how many pills he did, but he was fucked up. But we were late. We did what we had to do. We got everything together, and we headed out to the airport. And then, it was weird. That plane ride was weird. I actually had a bad feeling immediately.
I remember you telling me that.
And I was sitting down, and then the pilot was acting weird. The stewardess lady was acting weird, and I just felt something off, I got up to we should leave. You know what I mean? I got up and walked to the door, and then
crazy
to see if the cars were still there. And I'm like, because I was gonna be like, yo, let's just get the fuck off this plane right
yeah.
now. Something's not right.
Wow.
And then the cars were gone. And then I looked towards the back of the plane, and the guys loading the luggage in, or the pilot was back there at the time. They all turned and looked at me real weird, and it made me feel even more. But I'm like, fuck, I think we're in this. You know what I mean? The cars are gone. In reality, I wish I just said call the cars back here or something like that. There's so many. Wish I did differently things.
There's nothing you could have done.
So then that was it. We got on the plane, and we're the plane took off. It took a lot longer to take off. The airport was empty. It was about to close, about to be too late for us to take off. But then the plane pulled to felt like it drove to a weird part of the runway and sat there for a minute, and we're just sitting there. And then all of a sudden we take off. I'm like, all right, well, we're in this. We're in the air. And then everything was normal. You know what I mean? We were just falling asleep. Juice was up. I think there's videos on Instagram. You can see him dumping water on one of the kids, one of our guys' faces, one of his friends, and just goofing off and stuff like that. And everything was fine. And once we started getting closer to Chicago and we started getting service on our phones, our security guard, Hen, texted the group chat and was basically cops are here and they have a dog. And then
damn,
I got up, handled what I had to handle, and then sat down and just was mentally preparing myself, because I'm I knew what was about to happen to me, so
at what point did you make the decision to want to take the drugs for Juice?
I didn't take the drugs.
I mean, didn't you hold them for him, right?
No, another kid actually held his duffel bag that had the drugs in it.
Okay.
I took the gun.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got you.
It was before we were landing when we got service. We got that text. I just sat there for a second, and I just stood up. I walked up to the back of the plane and got it. Went to in the private jets, you go through the bathroom. I shut the bathroom door, and then there's another door, and you open it, and it's the tail of the plane where all the luggage is, and I just put it in my bag, and that was it.
Did Juice know the cops were waiting for him?
Yeah, I mean, we all know because it was on the group chat.
Oh.
We got a group chat with everybody that was there. So
was he freaking out?
No, he was chilling. So I sat down, we landed. I was basically just mentally preparing myself. I knew I had to go probably spend the night in jail or whatever. So I was just all right,
wow.
this is cool. I get to go to jail in Chicago. This is gonna be a first, I wasn't excited. So I was stressed out. And then I checked. Everybody was we got up. I'm like, everything's gonna be cool. We're gonna be good. You know what I mean? So I got off the plane first, I think, and then I just kind of paced outside for a second. I could see the police inside the,
wow.
Cause it's a private airport. It's a hotel lobby. You know what I mean? And it was late at night, so there was no one there. I think there was one or two people working at the desk. You know what I mean? So I walked in. Our security guard was sitting down. There was a couple cops there. They're putting on their vests still. I walked right by them, and I walked into the bathroom, and I was instantly thinking to myself, damn, if I took that, I could probably came in here and thrown it in the trash or something like that, and not be in my bag. But I was whatever, it is what it is.
Right.
And then I went back and kind of sat there and I just waited, and then they all start getting off the plane and coming in, and then they're taking the luggage off, and they had the dogs, and they're just like, everybody just sit down, and like they had the dogs searching the luggage, and then everybody thinks, there was just, I don't know, it was on TMZ or whatever, that like, oh, Juice knew the cops were coming, so took a handful of pills, and like, that's not what happened. I'm like, Juice did drugs, yes, you know what I mean, but he didn't try to hide them, but he literally, like, someone else held the duffel bag and had all the, like, there'd be no possible way for anybody to eat that amount of pills and think it's gonna be okay. And like, Juice didn't want to die. He wasn't gonna kill himself. He knew he wasn't gonna get in trouble. He had people around him that are gonna take care of, you know what I mean? Like, so like, we were even sitting there in the lobby, and his manager G Money walks up to him. They're both just like, we're all good. You're like, yeah. Or they like high five each other, like, don't worry, we're all good. Everything's gonna be cool. And then it was like, within a minute or two, he just started having a seizure right there in the lobby, like as they were like searching the bags and stuff like that. And then that's when like all the chaos broke loose. He made this weird noise. It was like something I've never heard. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I didn't know, you know what I mean? Like a weird groaning noise or whatever. And then all of a sudden I look, and he was just on the ground. And then Allie was freaking out. Everybody was freaking out. Everybody was kind of like up in arms. And then the cops kind of just grabbed us all and just handcuffed us all together, arm to arm. Everybody but Allie. Allie like wouldn't let go of Juice. She like grabbed him and tried to put him on his side and stuff like that. Juice did have like some pills fall out of his pocket, because like I said, like he would just keep a couple in those. So he had and there was like, it seemed like all the cops there just didn't give a shit. Like, they sat there very nonchalantly, and like Allie's screaming to call 911. There was one female, I don't know, she was a cop. She seemed like she was in plain clothes, but I don't know what she was. But she was like rushing around. What are these? Like, picked up the pills off the ground. What are these? And like, I was like, those are, the drugs. He takes them. I don't know how many he might have taken today. You know what I mean? But he takes, he's addicted or whatever. That was the lady that ran and got the Narcan and stuff like that. And that's like, that was happening. The cops were just like handcuffing us all together. But Allie, like, she was just on top of him, screaming, crying, and you know what I mean? Like, we're all handcuffed together, and everybody's like still freaking out, looking away, and I couldn't look away.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't want him to like look up and not think we were there. So, and when I looked at him in the eyes, it's like you could see that he wasn't there. But it seemed like forever before the ambulance came. And then I think the lady got the Narcan. They gave him Narcan. When they finally got him in the ambulance or in the stretcher, and they took him in the ambulance or whatever, and then they're like, whose bag is this? You know what I mean? I'm like, that one was mine, and I was getting arrested. But they were like, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. I mean, I saw him and he didn't look okay, but they were like, he's going to be okay. And then, I mean, I didn't find out he was gone until I was in jail. Like, I was just in the holding cell. And then I was like, just, handcuffed to the fucking wall. And this 2 detectives just walked in, and they're like, literally verbatim, they're like, we don't give a shit about anything else. We just want to know about the kid that died. And I was like, what? I'm like, who died? And
That is so heartless. Wow.
I just kept saying, you sure? They kept saying, pretty sure. I'm like, you're sure? Like, and they're just like, yep, pretty sure.
Oh, wow. What did you say after that?
I don't remember. Yeah, it kind of like blurs at that moment.
Right. And then obviously the media, I'm sure, doesn't help when you're out and everyone's blowing your phone up.
Well, I mean, yeah, I still had to be in jail for another few hours.
Okay.
And then I just remember and our security guard going, Sam out long, you all right? Because I think he just heard me like screaming in the fucking cell, because he was like in the cell next to me. And then And then they moved us like to another cell, and then he got bailed out first. I couldn't bail myself out because I wasn't from Chicago. I mean, at one point, I remember a cop saying to me, like, don't worry, this is just a gun charge. This is Chicago. You'll be out in a couple hours. You know what I mean? Like, there's no big deal here. And then Hen got out, and then Hen went and handled getting me out. And then I got bailed out, and then it was just like, it was now morning. And even the cop letting me out was like, your boy's all over the news. I was like, what? Like, he's really dead? Like, I still like was like denial about it, you know?
Damn.
And then I went, got my shit, and I just like walked out of the police station. It was like fucking freezing cold, snow on the ground. I had to like call an Uber, go back to the hotel where everybody was and shit like that. Like, it was hard.
Damn. I mean, just, you know, I'm big on mental health. Obviously, you know, it doesn't help the depression, and I'm sure you have PTSD from that moment, just having him die at your feet. How are you coping today? And I know you said you go to therapy. I would love to hear your journey with that.
I should have went to therapy sooner. I do have PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Obviously, the depression and anxiety got way worse after the Juice thing. Honestly, like, for a while, like, after Juice passed, like, I honestly, like, I had lean in one of my bags still, you know what I mean? Like, and when we got to Chicago, and like, I didn't do any drugs at all, and it was months. And like I said, I never did those pills before. You know what I mean? I never ever bought one. I would do one and would just give me one, usually break it in half. But after that, a couple months after, I went on tour with Trippie Red, and then I started getting really depressed. They were great. Like, Trippie and his whole crew, like, were really, like, they really brought me in, like, treated me like family, like, right away. Like, Trippie's a really good dude.
Yeah.
But that's kind of when, like, I was on tour, and then, like, you know, they would be having like little kickbacks and stuff like that in the studio or the hotel and stuff like that. But then a lot of times, like, I would just sneak off by myself and like go sit in the tour bus by myself. And like, then I started getting lean and pills and just getting fucked up alone.
Really?
Yeah. And then I kind of just did that off and on for a while, you know, and eventually.
Did anyone know you were going through it? Because I'm sure before you went on tour with Trippie, he knew your relationship with Juice and the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knew I was upset. I don't think everybody knew how upset I really was. You know what I mean? I'm
not even upset, but you're grieving your best friend's, you know, like.
I mean, one thing I learned in therapy is that if I went to therapy right away, I might have not gotten PTSD. The therapist told me like PTSD is something that kind of like sets in like in time. So I think it's probably, you know, after a few months, it started to hit me and get bad. And then, yeah, I mean, I still go through it. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. It's hard. You can't escape it. You can't. There are kids every day. There's fans. And, you know, it doesn't matter if it's positive. You know, kids hitting you up, asking you just questions constantly, and like they don't mean anything by it. They're just kids, you know. And then there's people that obviously you get a lot of hate. You know what I mean? You get positive stuff. You get hate stuff. You get just kids that are too much, like asking you too much stuff, and like you don't want to talk about shit, but like it's hard to escape sometimes, you know.
Definitely.
Like, you asked me, my IG's back, but like you asked me why my IG is, like I had to disable it. You know what I mean?
As you should. You should take breaks whenever you need to.
Yeah, so
for sure. Damn, because man, I mean, I know we talked about we were there when G Herbo was talking on the panel at the documentary screening.
Yeah.
About how, you know, whether it was a good day or a bad day, he still took pills. Yeah. But after Juice passed, it was like, yo, like, I think he did end up.
I think I mean, it was actually good to hear Herbo say that, because it's like the exact same thing that I went through. Like, you don't want to do these things, but then it's like you're doing the exact same thing that, you know, killed your friend, but it's like, I don't.
How else do you numb out in that moment?
It's like, And he was doing the same thing. He was numbing his depression and his pain and stuff with drugs, and then you just start doing the same thing. And then like a lot of it too is like I would sit there and like it would just bring me like the taste of lean and shit like that. Like just brings you back to like just chilling and hanging out in the studio and having like good nights. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like fun nights. And it's tough.
For sure.
It's tough.
I'll continue. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just but that wasn't Juice. Like Juice wasn't defined by his drug use. You know what I mean? Like he was a great person. You know what I mean? Like he cared about his friends. He wanted his friends around. He wanted to make good music. He wanted his friends there to make good music and show it off. And like there would be so many times that like it would start to get late and I would go to my room and like pass out on my bed and it'd be like 4:03 in the morning. He'd come bust into my room. He's like, hey, come listen to this. You know what I mean? I'd like grab my blanket like a little kid and be walking to the studio. And then I'd be sitting in the studio and like you play a song for me. We listen to it. And then he'd start recording another. Then I'd wake up. It'd be like 8 a.m. and nobody's in the studio and I'm passed out on the couch alone. Then I'm like, all right, now I'm going back to bed. Yeah. But like he just wanted his friends around. Like in the studio, he'd ask the other guys like, hey, I'm going to start recording at this time tonight. Come hang out in the studio tonight. Yeah. Like, let's record for an hour, then let's go take the dirt bikes out. You know what I mean? Or let's go play paintball tomorrow. And he just wanted to do fun shit. Like, had every video game. You know what I mean? Like, wanted to play video games. We bought lightsabers and had like lightsaber wars, and like we just did goofy fucking kid shit all the time. Like we just had fun. Like that was who Juice really was. He was just a fun, caring person,
Right. And I think he had like 3,000 unreleased songs. What was
a lot? Yeah.
Just talk about his work ethic. Like,
I mean, I've never, and that even now, you know what I mean? Like, and I've been in the studio with really big artists, you know what I mean? I've seen them record. I've never seen anybody record like Juice, you know what I mean? Like, and you see some people do it, but Juice was nobody like freestyle. Like Juice would put on a beat, and then he'd look at me. I'd start filming him, and he would just start freestyling to the beat and just freestyle for like 15 minutes. And then it's like, all right, sit down and record a song. Maybe he'll use some, if he liked that beat, you know what I mean? Maybe he used some stuff from that freestyle. Sometimes we would rewind it and rewatch it so he could like remember some of the lines he said, or sometimes it would be like a completely different song than what he just freestyled over the beat, But it was multiple songs a day, almost every single day. Like I've never met anybody that just wanted to just sit down and record music as much as he did. So it was just unbelievable. And he could just bang out songs too. Like, obviously not all songs are great. You know what I mean? Like I think all the songs are great because I'm obviously like one of his biggest fans, but like, obviously some are humongous hits and some are just, kind of whatever songs, but like he just would just do so much and he just had so much fun doing it.
Right.
And he never wrote, he just sat down and freestyled. And yeah.
That's incredible. Were you in the studio session when he was with Eminem?
Yeah. I was in that session. Eminem wasn't there. He FaceTimed Eminem.
Oh.
And they talked, but in the studio, we went to Dr. Dre's studio. And that night we sat in the studio, listened to music for a while. In the Burn music video, he's singing Burn to the camera. He's wearing like a black shirt with a white stripe in the studio. D Savage is there. That was that night.
Got it.
That was the night in Dr. Dre's studio. And we were just sitting there listening. He was just playing music and listening to it. And I just started filming him. That's how we have like obviously footage of him singing some of the songs that he made that are now just getting released. But when it was time to record the actual verse for Eminem, they actually wouldn't let me let me record there, which never happens. It's funny too because Juice was always like, if anyone ever questioned me filming or whatever, he'd always be like, no, he's with me, he's good. Like never, there's probably 3 or 4 times, and that was just because he was talking about something he didn't want on camera that he ever told me to like shut the camera off. You know what I mean? Like he wanted everything on film. And that was one of them because they wouldn't let us like record the music, and like because Dre and Eminem are obviously super tight about stuff getting leaked. Yeah, I get it. But that was the night he recorded it, and he recorded 2 verses. He recorded a verse, and then he looked at me and goes, "How is that?" And I'm like, I think you can do something better. Really? And then he re-recorded something. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he did two different versions of it.
Was he hyped? Because, you know, Eminem.
Yeah, he was excited about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, the posthumous album Fighting Demons came out. Man, I don't know about you, but I cried listening to the project. Like, do you even listen? Because I'm sure it triggers a lot for you.
Yeah, I do listen to a lot of his music still. The music is up and down. Some days I can, some days I can't.
Right.
Documentary, I can't.
Right.
I tried to watch it like last week to get ready for this interview, you know? And I got like, I mean, I couldn't even. Yeah. 15 minutes and I was done. I couldn't even stand it anymore. I mean, I want to watch it. You know what I mean? But it's like,
I actually really appreciate that you want to come on here and shed the positive light on Juice, because I know the documentary did focus on his drug use.
Yeah, it was the documentary was, I think it was good and it was a part of him, but it was very focused on the drug use. And I wish, and I'm not dissing the documentary at all. And Tommy's a great guy, you know what I mean? But, I do wish it did focus a lot on like his friendships and how he was as a person and stuff like that, which, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny because the documentary is kind of like a big Chris Long vlog in a way. You know what I mean? It's like, you can tell it's my footage almost. So, but yeah, I mean, that was a big part of him, but I also want to make sure people know, like, that just because he was addicted to drugs doesn't mean that that's who he was as a person. You know what I mean? Like, that's not who he was. That's not that's where his heart was and stuff like that. He cared about his friends. He cared about his family. Maybe he wasn't good at coping and dealing with depression and anxiety and dealt with it the wrong way, which a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. I mean, after he died, I did the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I say this to people all the time, like, even if you're healthy or you think you're healthy or whatever, like, therapy's great. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody should be talking to someone, even if you're not depressed or whatever. Like, therapy is great for people, especially like young people, and especially with the drugs that people use and how they use drugs to numb themselves. It's like, go talk to someone. Like, just learn to cope in a better way. You know what I mean? And I'm one to talk, can be sounding hypocritical at the moment. You know what I mean? Because I will do the same thing and fucking numb myself with drugs, but it's like, it's not the right way to handle it. It's like, you need to learn how to cope and deal with whatever is bothering you and not resort to drugs and not do that, and have the proper like support. And I want to be really open about things and stuff like that, because like, that's something I actually learned from Juice. Like, he didn't hide the way he felt. He didn't hide the way, like him having anxiety or depression or what was bothering him. He openly sang about it and talked about it. Would go on Instagram Live, you know what I mean? His drug use, everything. He was open, and it's like, that's how we should be. You know what I mean? Like, we should be open about it. And that's why it's like, yeah, I haven't been that great since he died. You know what I mean? Like, it's been really hard on me. But like, there's help, and I dealt with it in bad ways, but like, you need to get real help. People need to get real help. 1000%.
Speaking of support, what's your relationship with Ali? I'm sure you guys are happy to have each other throughout this.
Yeah. That's one thing. Like, I always want to be there for Ali. You know what I mean? Like, that was Juice loved her. Like, there's no question. Juice was absolutely in love with her, and then she loved him. They loved each other. It was, people say what they want or whatever on the internet, but like, Juice adored her. And one of the hardest things is the moment when he died, and like, seeing him and looking into his eyes, and then, but her like crying and praying. Like, I lost my friend and I watched him go, and I watched her lose like the love of her life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's hard. Like, and Ali knows this. I talked to her about it. Like, sometimes it's hard for me to be around her because like, it can trigger me. You know what I mean? But like, she was living right down the street from me. I'd go over there sometimes at night, smoke a blunt, talk to her for a couple hours and stuff like that, and hang out and I just try to be there for her, you know what I mean, as much as I can,
Definitely.
I'm always gonna, that's Juice was, one of my best friends, and that was the love of his life, and I'm always gonna be there for her because he'd want that, you know what I mean? So
Definitely. I know she wanted to get pregnant with him too, right?
yeah,
Were you
yeah,
there
they
for
did.
that moment?
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it, and they talked about it a bunch and stuff like that. Like Juice, I mean, that's what they wanted, you know what I mean? Like they
They were lovers.
yeah, they're just in love. Juice is a lover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think Cole said that in the documentary. Like Juice, and that's like the best way to describe it. Like Juice was a lover.
Definitely. So when Vlad interviewed Baby, Baby was saying that he flew all the way to Juice and Juice wouldn't even get out the hotel room.
Yeah, I mean, Juice didn't. I mean, that was kind of like one of the things I liked about Juice. Not because of like he was locked in the hotel room doing drugs or anything like that. Like he just didn't want to go do anything else. Like he didn't do normal rapper shit. We didn't go do dumb shit. We didn't go to the strip club. We didn't go to clubs or whatever. Like he didn't care about going to some special fancy restaurant or whatever. He's like, let's just chill out in the hotel, and Max comes through, sets up the studio, and we record.
Mm-hmm.
He's on tour. He just does this huge show. We go back to the hotel room, and then we're recording until 4 a.m. Right. Or if we didn't record, it's like me, him, and Allie just like chilling out watching The Office on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like they're just he just wanted his friends around. There's so many times he just texts me. He's like, "Yo, if we're home or on tour or whatever, he'd just be like, come to my room," and we just lay around and watch TV all day. He just wanted to be around his friends and family. Like he just wanted to, he didn't need to go out and do any extra shit, any over the top. He doesn't like I said, he didn't care about money. Like Juice didn't buy cars, you know what I mean? Like, and he bought like a couple expensive watches and stuff like that, but he didn't buy a bunch of chains or anything. Like he bought a bunch of dirt bikes. He bought a bunch of dirt bikes so he could ride with him and his friends. You know what I mean? Like, all right, cool. I got like 10 bikes outside. Let's all go for a cruise together. You know what I mean? Like He went to the paintball store and he spent, a ton of money and bought 10 of the best paintball guns, you know what I mean? And paintballs and all the gear so we could all play paintball together. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like selfish or any means. He didn't care about anything. He just honestly cared about just having fun and being with his friends.
Right. Yeah. That's beautiful. Just you being such a big factor in the situation. Do you have any advice for people who are struggling with substance abuse, or addicts, or have friends that, are on the brink of, rock bottom? Because obviously I'm sure, you look back and you're like, damn, I wish I could have done this. But in hindsight, there's really nothing you could have done.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing. In hindsight, it's like, you have to understand you can't make an addict stop doing drugs unless they want to stop doing drugs. It's like the best you can do is just be a support system and try to, talk about the positives of not doing the drugs and trying to get them, try to get help, try to get therapy, AA or whatever. Go to a treatment center if you can, and that's not easy for everyone, but it's like whatever you can do. If I have the free California whatever insurance, you know what I mean, and it's like I got a therapist, and it wasn't easy, you know what I mean. Like it was kind of a bitch, but it's like I had to do it. And it's like you have to, and if you have to do that for your friend, if you have to take their insurance card or whatever, or you know what I mean, like you have to let your friend borrow $200 if you can to go to a therapy session, you know what I mean, like you got to do what you got to do. If you got to get them into AA or NA, or just be there and just you got to convince them that you want them there and what they're doing isn't worth it. And like, which is hard. Right. It's not easy.
Definitely.
It's not easy to do.
Definitely. So. Man, well, on a positive note, talk about working with Ski, Mask The Slump God. I love him. He's an amazing human being.
Ski's awesome. Well. I love Ski. Ski has become a really good friend. I mean, we were friends before, but we've gotten really close in the past year. Me and Ski get along really well because Ski went through some shit too. I mean, he went through what he went through with X, and then he was friends with Juice also.
Right. I think I saw him in the documentary, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And DJ Scheme is Ski's DJ, and I'm really good friends with Scheme. And Scheme was with us. Like Scheme lived with us at the house that summer. So he was really close with us too. So we're family. You know what I mean? So we all went through that shit together. And especially those guys, you know what I mean? Like, and I know Ski kind of struggles with the same feelings that I have, you know what I mean? Like, especially like with the ups and downs of losing your friends, and like, you know, like it comes in waves and stuff like that. You know, you have your ups and you have your downs and stuff like that. And like, I think he knows when I start to get really sad and depressed, and like he reaches out to me and talks to me and like makes sure I'm good. You know, he makes sure I'm okay and everything's good. You know, like he's someone that cares. You know what I mean? Like they're you know, in this industry, not everyone's your friend. You might know a lot of people. You know, you might be acquaintances with a lot of people. You might be surface level friends with a lot of people. But it takes a lot for someone to be a true friend, you know, and that's what you got to watch out for out here. But when you find it, it's like, hold on to it, you know?
Definitely. That's beautiful. Is there anything else you're working on that people should look out for?
Just my own stuff. Like, I do my YouTube channel, which is Chris Long Films. My Instagram is Chris Long Films. It's all the same stuff. My chrislongfilms.com website will be up pretty soon. I sell like prints. I'm gonna do some like photo tees and stuff like that. I'm gonna have some books come out in the future too.
Okay. What are the books about?
I'm gonna do like photo books.
Photo
like
book.
I'm gonna do like a general photo book, and then I might do a photo book of just all Juice stuff. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Stuff. Yeah. You know, there's other things in the works maybe, but you know, the YouTube is like my biggest thing going right now. Besides like when I work with other artists or whatever, if I work a job, I'll do like Rolling Loud, and I do a lot of behind the scenes for Lyrical Lemonade.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
I just move around, try to get in where I can, you know what I mean? Plus do my own stuff. And
for sure.
Yeah.
Is photography your what brings you the most joy? Or was it?
I like doing photography. Photography is the most, I like doing video too. Like I like, like look at the Juice documentary. Like look at, we have all that footage because I never stopped recording. You know what I mean? But I think the most satisfaction is when I get like a photo back I really like. I like, that's for me is the most. Given
that it was your footage, did they ask you any, permission in the documentary to use any of that, or like?
Yeah, I gave them all the footage to use and stuff.
Because that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, no, I gave them like 3 terabytes of footage.
Oh my god!
And I think Steve Cannon also gave him about 3 terabytes of footage. Yeah.
Oh wow! Shout out to Steve. I was just DMing him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn. Well, thank you so much for being so vulnerable.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we got your back no matter what. I personally have your back. Like it's all love. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.